chair?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Right there or right there, yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Almost a full house. Look at you moving up.
All right, folks, thank you so much for coming. So for those who don't know like that much about my background, I've been studying tonic herbs for about 10 years now, going back initially with Amazon herbs, and then I got into Ayurvedic herbs and then Chinese herbs. I still love Amazon herbs, I love Ayurvedic herbs, but now I'm really interested in Chinese tonic herbs because they're so well studied and such a broad variety of them that there's just so much they can do for us and we can learn from them. So I'm going to be doing this presentation with Opesamo, the other consultant here, and I'm going to basically provide sort of like the backdrop philosophy on Chinese tonic herbalism, some Taoist principles as it relates to herbalism, and just some background on how the organ systems are viewed, and just kind of like a setup for what he's going to do basically. So what you see up here, this is the goddess Magu. She's a Taoist goddess of eternal beauty, and she's kind of the one that's looked to when people are trying to experience longevity and health. So she's kind of like a deity, like you would have a poster of whatever deity you believe in. She's the one that's looked up to for youth and empowerment in that way. So pretty much this presentation, first and foremost, it's about your potential and our belief in your potential to thrive in every way possible. And so I really want you to grab some of the core essential basic essences of what I'm going to be talking about. And you don't have to remember all the details, because I can email you this presentation. We have one more chair right here. Yeah, as far as the names of different herbs, the names of different principles, all of you can get that in the email from me, right? But I want you to just kind of feel us and our enthusiasm, what we're trying to really convey to you. Just feel our energy as we are talking about these herbs and these principles. So, just a little disclaimer, we are educators, we're not practitioners of any kind, we're not therapists. Our work is in affinity with Taoist tonic herbalism, which is a lot of it has to do with intuition and experimentation. Just, I want to say something about Opesamo. He came to work here a few months back, and I saw him bringing, I saw like all of a sudden customers come to the counter with Ecomia, Fo tea, and all kinds of Chinese herbs in bulk, which was never happening before. And right when I saw that coming, I knew there was somebody in the back there that was giving out very special knowledge to people, and I just want to express my appreciation for him and his being at the food mill and educating all of you guys about this very important philosophy. So, I think there's about 7 lessons that tonic herbs teach us. 6 of these are from Ron T. Garden. He's a founder of Dragon Herbs, and he's kind of my mentor in this. And one of them I added. So the one in purple is kind of mine that I added to this. Support is always available. The tonic herbs have taught me that whenever I need some support in some area of my physical life and spiritual life, that these herbs are there to kind of bring that together. And that's been a blessing that for the last 10 years that I've been getting out of these herbs. Yeah. Sorry. And then I will, if anybody wants a presentation, I will send an email to you guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So there's basically three important numbers that you want to remember from my part of the presentation. These are the numbers 2, numbers 3, number 5. So the 2 relates to the yin and yang. The 3 relates to the 3 treasures, And the three treasures actually correlates to the Trinity. So like in Christianity you have a Trinity, and in Taoist Tonic herbalism you have the three treasures, and those two correlate to one another. So that's something to keep in mind. Number 3 is very important. And then number 5 is in reference to the 5 organ systems and the 5 elements. So all these herbs are going to be interplaying with the masculine, feminine. They're going to be interplaying with the three treasures. They're going to be interplaying with the 5 organ systems of the body. So I'm not going to get too deep into the 5 organ systems as far as the herbs are concerned, but just know there is a relationship.
5 organ systems.
So basically, we have heaven and earth, right? We have 2 sides to everything. We have the past and the future, the outer and the inner. The salt and the sugar, the night and the day. There is a feminine and masculine aspect to ourselves and also to everything around us. So part of grasping herbalism is to understand this very basic principle. Even in our brain, we have a masculine left hemisphere and a more feminine the right hemisphere, and there are certain qualities that come with each hemisphere. The ideal scenario is to be able to synchronize both hemispheres to work together in harmony, and that applies to pretty much everything. So, from an energetic standpoint, the most important thing to understand about yin yang is expansion and contraction. So, contraction is more of the masculine energy within the universe, and expansion is the female energy. Right now, we're going into winter. It's basically more of the yin time of the year. When you're at work doing a 9-to-5 job, you're at the computer, you're experiencing a contraction, right? You're kind of tightening up. When the weekend comes, you want to unwind. You go have a drink, you go play ball. So now you become more yin. So the weekends are kind of more of the yin component of our lives. So right now I'm expressing a yang energy. You guys are listening, you guys are taking it in, you guys are expanding, you guys are experiencing a yin type of energy. So the 3 treasures, as I mentioned earlier, they correlate to a few different things. I'm only putting 2 up here, but the candle analogy is the one that's most often used in tonic herbalism. Your jing is like the wax of the candle, right? Your qi is the fire of the candle, and your shen is the light of the candle. In order to have a strong light and a strong fire, you got to have a lot of good wax, a solid structure. That solid structure of wax is built up by consuming tonic herbs that have a jing component to them. And that's a Masonic symbol where you have a star, you have a moon, and the sun, and that also correlates to the 3 treasures, to the Trinity. So there's 3 interplays in our reality very significantly. So like what I was saying earlier, you want to get your 2 hemispheres of the brain synchronized. The ultimate state you want to be in, you want to be in a state of contemplation, where you're receptive, you can receive, and you can also express yourself in the best way possible. What happens in, let's say, in America, for example, we have a left brain dominant culture. There's too much concentration happening, not enough meditation. Whereas maybe a place like India, there's too much meditation, not enough concentration. I'm just kind of making a general example here. So you want to bring them together in a state of contemplation. So what these herbs do for you over time is they bring your hemispheres together so you can be in a more contemplative state. So one thing about tonics is they're safe to use every day. They don't throw you off balance. There are herbs out there like echinacea and golden seal. You can only use them for a couple of weeks and you got to take a break because they're medicinal herbs. They're going one direction. They're treating a symptom. These herbs are not really there to treat symptoms. They're there to bring the body into balance so you don't end up getting symptoms in the first place. And they're there to modulate your immune system. So if your immune system is underactive, it's going to bring it up. If it's overactive and you're going to autoimmune, it's going to bring it down. So just some other examples of yin and yang. So these are. I'm not saying anyone should eat any of these foods or you should not. I'm just giving you examples of energetics when it comes to food. So yang foods that are contracting would be this side. Salt is the ultimate example of a contracting food, right? It basically, like, someone has too much salt, it's going to contract their blood vessels, it's going to get high blood pressure. Sugar is on the opposite spectrum, right? That's the expanded food. So when you're having a dinner is usually kind of a yang food, right? Dinner is usually kind of salty. It has some of the animal protein in it. And then after dinner you want a dessert. Because you got contracted by your dinner, so now you want a yin dessert that's a little sweet. So we're always eating in a way to find an equilibrium between these two energetics. Is everyone kind of cool with this? Okay. So you have check something right quick here. Okay, so the 5 primary organ systems, they are all yin organs, right? These are the organs that are solid on the inside. The liver, the kidney, the heart, the spleen, and lungs. Each of these organs control other organs in the body. So for example, the kidney controls the skeletal structure, the bone marrow, joints, tendons, so forth, and even actually the brain as well is heavily influenced by the kidney. That's why there's so much emphasis put on kidney tonics in herbalism, is because the kidney is a major regulator of longevity. So the liver, heart, spleen, lungs, so these are all the different tastes that are associated with each of the organs. So a balanced diet will have all 5 flavors in your diet every day. Your organs actually have an affinity for these flavors, and you want to have them all 5. So the yang, these are supporting organs. So the liver is supported by the gallbladder. So the liver is kind of like the general, and the gallbladder is basically the one that is implementing the strategy, so to speak. So, and these are all the hollow organs. So you see the stomach, intestines, bladders, they all have space on the inside, right? Because heaven is expanded, right? It's hollow. The earth, yin, is solid, right? So this correlates to the organs. The yang organs are the hollow, the yin organs are the solid organs. So whatever you guys do in the next week, please get a copy of this book. And this will be one of the most important books you'll have in your library. Every family in Oakland should have this book. It will provide you shortcuts to this knowledge, and it will direct you into more confidence in this area like no other piece of material I can recommend to you. And we do have like 3 or 4 copies on sale here. So herbal delivery systems. So a lot of these herbs, it's hard to really eat them like you would eat like a sandwich. So you have to put them in stuff. My favorite things to put them in is in chocolate and coffee, and probably water will be second. But I love using chocolate and coffee as delivery systems for these herbs. Alcohol is a very powerful delivery system because it's fast soluble. So that's why a lot of tinctures are alcohol based, because alcohol goes right into your membranes. It doesn't have to go through your GI tract. The problem with alcohol in this country, American culture, they're abusing alcohol, right? They're basically taking something that's supposed to be a delivery system for medicine and herbs, and they're basically drinking it. They're basically like, it's like ordering a pizza and the guy comes with a pizza. Instead of eating the pizza, you eat the delivery guy. know what I mean?
Yeah.
So basically,
Wow.
alcohol is therapeutic in small doses, so you can deliver herbs into your body, right? 10 milliliters a day or something like that, right? It's small amounts. The sugars like maple syrup or great preservatives, the vinegar, all that's a good extraction. There's some components, like in some of the mushrooms and some of the herbs, that are only fast soluble, that you could only get them out through oils. So you can actually like make them heat them up in butter, for example. So now into some of the herbs as far as it relates to the three treasures. So the top Jing herbs, as it relates to the opinion of many, would be these five right here: goji berry, deer antler, eucombia, hoshu wu, schizandra, and cistanche. So when people start with tonic herbs, they should always incorporate a Jing herb. Because the Jing is like you're building your kidneys, you're building your adrenals, your inner lower organs. This is like your battery pack. So you always want to have Jing herbs in your regimen. Right. This is the wax. This is the wax of the candle. In order to have the fire and the light, you need wax. So especially if you're into like coffee and things like that, you want to make sure you're consuming Jing herbs. So when you're using adrenaline and other kinds of energy in your body, your qi is being raised through different kinds of like ginseng, for example. You want to make sure you have reserves to tap into. So this is the base. You start with the Jing herbs. So this is the deer that Dragon Herbs uses for their deer antler tips. And this is an exceptional product for people that are writers or athletes or people trying to correct their hormones. It's a very special deer that's revered in China. And it's definitely one of the more pricier Jing herbs, but at some point in your life, you want to go through a bottle of deer antler from one of these deers. It's worth it. So the Qi tonics are very special. This is for working in America. This is for getting through the grind. This is for getting through your routines. A lot of the Qi herbs are tied to the immune system because they support the spleen. So the spleen is responsible for digestion and also for immune system. It's responsible for blood volume and blood flow and blood building. So astragalus is an exceptional herb for both digestion and the immune system. Cordyceps is the most expensive produce in the world. San Francisco Chinatown, last time I was there a few weeks back, an ounce of wild cordyceps was $1,800 an ounce. $1,800 an ounce.
Don't you have it here though?
That's not the wild one. That's kind of like that's the lab grown. That's the techno cordyceps. This is collected at the glacial melt in the Himalayas. And what these mushrooms are, they're basically a kind of parasite. They parasite caterpillars and silkworms, and they take over their nervous system, and then eventually they blow through their head. So when they're collected, it's like a caterpillar with a mushroom sticking out of its head. It's basically what the cordyceps is.
That is the same procedure with, as we just talked about, the insect going to your head and taking over.
Yeah.
That's the same way the colors.
Right. So I actually have a bag of Polyrhacus black ant that I just got. This is one of my favorite herbs. So when you talk about herbs, you're also talking about animals, and you're talking about berries, you're talking about mushroom. An herb is more of a description of a function. It's not a description of like a botanical structure, right? It could be an animal, it could be anything that has a function of an herb. So this is kind of for anybody that wants to hang out afterwards. I might give you a little dab of ant if you guys are brave enough to. But this has preformed ATP in it, so it gives you energy without having to go through the GI tract. So that's very, very rare in food. Usually you have to break it down. So, so these are the Shen. These are ultimately why we take herbs in the first place, or why we eat anything in the first place, is for Shen. It's for spirit, for building your spirit. That's ultimately why we're here, is to build our spirit. So once you got your Jing tonics, your Qi tonics, you then get into your Shen tonics. This is for raising your spirit. And you have three kinds of reishi that are definitely the top Shen tonics. You have shaga mushroom, polygala, Tibetan rhodiola, in my opinion. Do you have any other you want to add for Shen? Besides, is that pretty much?
Polygala, yeah, I mean, but there's
Yeah.
an herb called Kelejupam.
Okay. So you'll be talking about that one, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Has anybody here tried any of these herbs? So you got the Tibetan rhodiolas and the super adaptogen that you're using, and you too, you got both of you guys got that.
Yeah, the reishi mushrooms.
Yeah. Unfortunately, most of the mushroom, the reishi mushroom that's available like in stores like this are not these. Like we can through dragon herbs we can get these, but most of them are not these. They're more like kind of they still work. They don't have the spiritual qualities like these three here. Okay, so now this part right here is very important for our future, because our future, our health, our longevity is tied to our stem cells. Our capacity for our body to release stem cells is basically how we're going to repair ourselves and repair injuries, repair damage caused by disease, repair damage caused by accidents, is by getting that bone marrow to give up stem cells, so those stem cells will migrate to where they have to go to. The older we get, the less stem cells we get circulating in our body. That's why every infection for somebody who's over 60 is a lot more dangerous for somebody who's like say 40 or under, because you have less stem cells. You have less stem cells, you're going to have less fresh immune system cells, right? The stem cells become immune cells. And so that's why like pneumonia and different kinds of flus are dangerous for people over 70, where they're not dangerous for younger people. Why cancer is dangerous for older people, because the immune system is not as proficient, there's less stem cells. So a lot of these herbs, they're both chi tonics and jing tonics. They are nourishers of the bone marrow. They're going to help with stem cell circulation. If you don't know where to start, you start with Ho Shi Wu when it comes to this area. If you're gonna do one herb, you don't know what to do, you start with Ho Shi Wu. That gets the ball rolling when it comes to this.
Do they also strengthen the bone?
Well, if you got the cell, okay, so all your damaged organs and tissues, they're sending out little molecules that are telling your stem cells, come help us, we're injured. And the stem cells are looking for these molecules, which are basically like SOS calls from the body. And the brain is sending them out, all this kind of stuff's happening. And they're going to go wherever. So if you have bone damage, stem cells are going to go to the bone. Like they're going to go wherever there's damage. So there's formulas right now just being released into the market that up stem cells by a couple million dollars per couple million in volume per serving. But there's really promising stuff right now that's happening with stem cell nutrition as it relates to tonic herbs and other foods like blue-green algae, the brown seaweeds, and other things that are activating stem cells. So it's not just tonic herbs, but there's a kind of a whole basket of nutrients that's not being shown to stimulate the bone marrow's stem cell productivity. So one thing I want to add here is this is a topic that I like talking about. I have another presentation that goes a little deeper into this, but basically people think that their hormones are declining because they're aging in a certain way. Actually, we age in a way that's non-beneficial to us because our hormones are declining. So a lot of these herbs are going to work on the glands in the body. They're going to help you stimulate hormones that are going to help you stay more vigorous longer. So there's a major hormone correction component to all of this. That's a deeper story. Getting the books that I recommended would help with that. But put it like this: the liver is very much responsible for hormone regulation in the body. So all the tonic herbs that will support your liver will support hormonal balance in the body. So that's a good consideration as you go forward. Okay, so this is a tonic elixir bar in LA. So this is actually a venue that I was hoping we can recreate here in the Bay Area. And the idea that I've been talking with Ope Samuel and other people is basically taking an alcohol recreational venue and repurposing it into an elixir bar, a tonic bar, and making it elegant where young people can hang out, have a good time. Generally speaking, I have this vision that the young people of today that are under 20, they haven't been brainwashed into needing to go get a drink on the weekends. They might want to be doing something else, and the tonic bars could serve that purpose. So this is kind of a vision I have for the next few decades, is to actually converting some of these alcohol bars into tonic elixir bars along the same level of elegance that's happening over there in LA. Yeah?
That'll be a blessing.
Yes,
Because
yes.
I have seen my share.
Right.
Some people that are just deteriorated from alcohol. Right in my own family.
Exactly.
Uncle, my sister, my granddad, horrible. Laguna Honda home, horrible. And they end up with jaundice, yellow jaundice, and cirrhosis of the liver. And it's a dog. It's a dog. That'd be a blessing.
Yeah. Thank you for acknowledging that. So,
You gonna do it here or something, sir?
well, in the Bay Area, well, I'm not sure where. It has to be like a trendy area, like Union Street, Fillmore. The first spot has to be kind of trendy.
When you wanna do it in the city?
It could be Oakland and Berkeley, but it has to be kind of somewhere where people are hanging out already. Something that could be open till like midnight. So it's kind of exploring that idea, because honestly speaking, when young people can feel what these tonics are doing to their body, like it's just like having like a Bud Light or a Budweiser or a Heineken. It just becomes a ridiculous notion. There's no comparison. So you're just getting people exposed to these beverages and getting them familiar with it. So I started out talking about the three treasures in the Trinity. Here's a couple more examples of that. My personal motto: truth, love, freedom. Another three for you here: thoughts, actions, emotions. So part of what I'm doing is to help people raise their consciousness. Part of raising your consciousness is to make sure that our actions are always in line with our thoughts and our emotions. To make sure that what we're thinking and what we're feeling, we're actually doing in this world. That we're not contradicting ourselves in our actions. So ultimately, my big reason for doing this is to get people to think along the terms of consciousness. So now, Ope Samuel is going to come up, introduce himself, and we'll get to the second part of the presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, I use astragalus and many other herbs. My main thing is to always look at herbs and tonics itself as food. Because the way we eat, the way we carry ourselves, the way we talk, the way we breathe, all those things are integrated in health or balance. So not only just, you could be vegan, you could be the best eater in the world, you could be exercising directly, but if you're eating in the wrong times of the day also play a role. Because if you're eating after 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, your food's not digested. Nothing is going through the system. And that's really where what he's talking about, consciousness of eating, consciousness of thought, consciousness of breath, right along with eating in the right times, because your metabolism is stronger, your digestive system is flowing a lot easier. 11 a.m. to mostly around 3:30 really, 4 at the latest, but 3:30 really, because those things are you're active, you're breathing, you're even accessing certain things that when you're thinking about the food that you're eating, you're trying to get it down your system, it's trying to flow out of your system. It takes 3 hours for your body to digest, to eliminate those things out. So if you're not having good bowel movements, if you eat 3 times a day, then you should be having 3 bowel movements a day. Those are the things that I'm thinking about. So, and this is one of the base herbs that I use, astragalus. Astragalus is a good herb, like you were talking about earlier, because it's not only good for your immune system, but it's, like you said, digestion. So digestion, usually, like there's a bone marrow stew that I make up during this time of the year, which astragalus, jujube, again, dealing with the spleen, dealing with like the immune system, because the spleen deals with the immune system, having the red blood cells, the white blood cells stored in the spleen. And so having those two together with like some chicken with the bone, or like goat bone. Sometimes I use those things because those things are good and fortifying for the vitality of the body. So it's not only just things that you're taking in for as herb-wise, like, okay, this is a pill that I'm taking, or this is something that I'm taking in into a certain amount of time in a drink, but what food you take into your body and how you take them into your body, the times of day that you take them in your body. Those are also very important. And so this herb, right along with, oh, that's wrong, gotta go down. Right along, again, this is one of my favorites because Heshawu is, or Foti, is one of those kind of herbs that are powerful because it's both male and female, both yin and yang at the same time, which is really important too, because when you're taking that kind of herb, when you're saying the liver and the kidneys are like the root of the body, because we really only have one organ in our body, because all the organs support each other. As they support each other, they begin to develop you're not as hungry when you're eating them. When you're eating or taking herbs in, you're not as you don't feel as fatigued, because this is not a stimulant. Heshawu is not a stimulant. It's not something that's going to get you like coffee or anything like that, or processed coffee. So looking at herbs like Heshawu is one of those things that, right along with, like I said, I would also use something like this in bone marrow stew. But it's really good for people with prostate issues. And not only people only look at like this as well. It could be for the liver and the kidneys, but what other herbs kind of balance those things out? So when I'm thinking about what herbs can I use, what herbs do I put together, how do they function together? So Heshawu, so I know it's good for the prostate. So I already automatically know that I could probably use soft palmetto at the same time, because they will balance these things out. And soft palmetto also is not strictly for men and the prostate. It's also good for women, for their ova, for their cervix, for balancing out their hormones, those kinds of things, for their mammary glands. When my daughter was born, I gave her mother soft palmetto specifically, and Heshawu, but soft palmetto specifically because it helped her to produce milk. So those are things that you're looking at in a whole different kinds of ways, because even when we're talking about our bones, again, we're talking about the kidneys, and the kidneys are not only connected to the bones and the marrow, they're connected to the ears. The ears and the kidneys are synonymous with each other. And so you think about how we connect to our ears. What do we hear? What do we listen to? How do we function, and how do we take things into our ears, or open gates? So through our ears, through our eyes, through our mouth, through our, even through our hands to a certain degree, right? The words that we speak, actions that we take. Again, breathing. Breathing is more important than any food that you take into your body. If you're not breathing properly, if your breathing is only stopping from here to here or from here to here, it's like you're doing shallow breathing. So when you do that, like deep breathing from your core up, then it becomes this potent, this vibrant energy in your system. So then when you go down to your genitals and bringing that energy back up from there to your heart, or from your knees, or from the feet, pulling that energy back up to the pineal gland or to your thyroid. All these areas in your system build this vibrant energy, or optimal living, or optimal life. And so that's where, even when we talk about relationships and sex, those things in itself are in that same relationship to our food, same relationship to tonic herbs, because that breathing, not just expelling or releasing things, but really just holding it in and regenerating energy in between two people. And so that's why I really like this herb in itself, because when you take it in combination with other herbs, but even by itself, it really opens you up where your mind is really sharp, it's calm, it's focused, it's centered. And then you begin to open yourself up even more so, because now these things start to flow a little easier. Your digestive tract, you're not as hungry, because you're bringing in these nutrients. It has calcium, vitamin A, it has copper. There's all those things in your system that your body needs to push away those free radicals in your system.
May I ask you a question?
Huh?
Now, does that come just like that, or does it come?
The Heshawu, it comes, it's the root, right? So the root itself is the processed Heshawu and the unprocessed Heshawu. The processed heshawu is the one where they take the black beans and water with black beans in the water in the pot and cook it all the way down, and so it pulls out other
Oh, Lord
properties.
have mercy. I don't like black beans.
But it opens up. It pulls, it draws out these other elements in that herb.
I never, I never really tasted them, I guess, like I should have,
You mean the black bean herb, not like actual black beans, right?
No, the black beans are cooked, or all the black beans are doing with this herb when it
Oh,
you
the
put
real
them together.
black beans, not the ones in the.
No, black beans, yeah, black beans,
Okay.
black beans.
Every day, 7
Yep.
days a week.
Exactly, and so when you boil them together, it just draws it out. It draws the medicinal qualities out of the herb in frog. So you're not eating the black beans; it's drawing the medicinal qualities out of the raw.
Because I
heshawu.
know there's another herb in there called black beans, right? The small ones.
You-
Got in there.
Well, there's black beans in there, or turtle beans. They're in there, but they're talking. That's just using those beans in the process. You're processing.
How much do you use when you do the herbs? I mean, when you put it in a pot, how much do you use?
Okay. What I'm saying with this herb specifically, that's how they process this
Oh,
herb.
you don't do it yourself.
Yeah.
It's just a process.
It's the process that they've used to draw out the medicinal qualities. So the
Got
raw
you.
and the process. That's the different. That's the two types of heshawu that they.
Okay.
Lemon balm. Now, lemon balm is very potent in a lot of ways. It calms your nerves. I also use passion flower. You also can use obviously valerian and things like that. But lemon balm is good also as a deodorant, also as a in like toothpaste or something like that for your teeth, for your gums. Because again, it's antiviral, antimicrobial. It's really good for obviously for digestion. So again, I look at these kind of herbs. What herbs kind of balance each other out to where it's calming you down and helping you to focus and root yourself in, but hitting certain organs. And so generally, the tonic that I'm brewing up now is I do like a few different organs. Like you were saying, polygala is another herb that's in there. But because these things are balancing themselves out, I want something that relieves, that again, it says anti-spasmodic. Stimulating the hormones, good for the thyroid, intestinal health, it's antiviral. All these things we hit or deal with on a daily basis, and that's really even what we're dealing with when we're dealing with herbs. Is these things are to aid us in our everyday life, not necessarily to take over. This is not like you go from one extreme to the other. It's you take these herbs to help the body does what it does naturally, not necessarily to that's all that I do. Now, instead of taking my pharmaceutical drugs, I take this, and then it covers those same things. We're talking about balance in general.
So you have lemon balm here?
Lemon balm, yeah, we do. We do have lemon balm. Morinda is a good herb because, again, it's also good for the liver and the kidneys. And so these other herbs, like, for example, heshawu, liver and the kidneys, damiana, liver and the kidneys. But they all hit certain things in your system. Bring out, like every organ, like I'm sure he just talked about already, has like a yin and a yang inside the organ, or that already has that vital energy inside the organ, that essence in the organ. And so each herb is going to approach these things in a different kind of direction. And that's really what you're looking at when you're looking at, okay, what is this herb? What function does it do? And for me, I take it back to just growing the herb. Because I grew up with my grandmother, my parents. So when you see an herb grow, you kind of see the nature of what that herb does. And so sometimes when I'm looking for herbs, like for example, I use herbs also from Nigeria. There's an herb called, I was talking about earlier, Akede Jukbon. Akede Jukbon is like both for male and female, and it works with the fertility and other aspects of your body. Female issues and fibroids and issues with the prostate, issues with like respiratory issues, things dealing with the thyroid, obviously if it's dealing with hormones. But I look for that characteristic of what is the nature of that herb. How does it function as a whole? Then how do these other herbs function as a whole? How do they really interplay with each other? And then, how does this thing function in my body? Because that's the key element as well, because everybody's body is completely different. So what herb has these properties, has these things that work? But then you have to figure out, okay, what is my body? How does my body react to certain foods? Some people can't take too many hot peppers, right? So because those hot peppers may be too overwhelming for the system. The system may be already too hot, right? Too much yang in the system. And so then you have to flip those on the other side. How does that function in my body? If I take only like 2 or 3 grams of this, am I feeling this way? Or am I taking this in combination with something that I know that my body is going to invigorate itself at night or in the morning or in the midday? Again, talking about the digestive periods, talk about the periods of self, of how do you function in that day. And then, like for example, when you have somebody that has really a hot constitution, right, then automatically they should stay away from things that are heating their system up, unless they're out of balance. Same thing with Korean ginseng, red ginseng. Red ginseng is a good herb, but you can overdo Korean ginseng. You can overstress your adrenal glands. You know, so those things are really important to understand too. So any herb. So when we talk about the liver and the kidney, that's what we're looking at. How do those things function? And what is the function of the liver and kidney? The liver and kidney deals with the hair, the eyes, the skin, the nails, the anger, that irritability, that stress, the anxiety, those things that our body is kind of really dealing with. So why is that? Because it's a filter. So what happens when you have a filter in your body, or you have a filter for water, filter for food, right? Those things, some things get clogged up. So if it gets too clogged, what happens? Nothing can pass through. And then this thing starts to happen in your system. Same thing with the liver. Your system starts to back up. When you're not eating in the right proper times of the day, what happens? Your body's not be able to digest the food that you're getting in your system. So it starts to back up. Acid reflux, right? Acid hitting your esophagus, burning a hole almost in your esophagus. You know what I mean? Irritability. You're stressed, you're mad, you don't know why, but you just, you overreact, or you're just like, people are always against me, the kind of mentality. What's the food, the things that you're taking in your system?
I'm having a bad day.
Just by coincidence, I was reading about Morinda this morning. Someone was talking about the oil helps your hair to grow.
Yeah.
And so, is that the oil something you can take internally, or is that just external?
Well, no. This physical herb is what's we use in the tonic specifically.
If it's, is there an oil that you can purchase, or do you recommend to infuse it in the oil for your hair like that?
For me, I've only used it in tonic form.
Okay.
I've only put it in that form as the rhizome. I use that because again, once you extracting these things and putting it there, anything dealing with the kidneys, the liver is going to deal with the hair. They deal with the eyes, yes.
The benefit of this Morinda root is to clean the filter, the liver and kidney.
That's good. Yeah, it's the yang. It's that yang.
It cleans it, huh?
It's really good.
Good.
Yeah, definitely. And so that's why it's so. It's easily accessible. It's easy to get a hold of, but the uses of it. Something like goji berries. Think about what goji berries do.
Because the bad food you eat, you ruin the filter.
Exactly. Perfect. Exactly.
The
That's
liver and
exactly.
kidney are two filters like a car, your automobile. You got oil filter, air filter.
Yep, and all those things play key. If you don't have your air filter, your oil filter is messed up, it starts to leak into other parts of the body. Stuff starts to happen in the car or the body, right? So same kind of thing, same kind of concept, definitely. Suzanne berry is one of those things that are, again, like I said, it's an antioxidant. It's dealing with like all the 3 treasures all at the same time. And that's what the benefit of it. So, that's why I like to use this and cordyceps together in a certain kind of way, because cordyceps is dealing with the lungs, dealing with the liver, dealing with those things in Baishu, because it's pushing out the excess mucus out your system. Again, the benefit of a tonic is to help you develop and to live to your optimal self. Period. And so ultimately, when you're taking that herb, for example, in the wintertime will be different. You should take different herbs in the summertime, right? Why is that? What happens in the summertime? Summertime, things are hot, generally. We live in the pit area, it goes and comes, right? So you never know. But in general, in the summertime, we take in a lot of mucus-forming foods that are easily kind of burned out of the system. And sometimes we work them out. But when we don't work them out and we get all the way to like the middle of the winter time, then all those other excesses that we had in summer starts to come out in the winter. So like you have flus, excess mucus in your system. All those things that really bog the system down, pull the system down. And so that's why this is like one of the good things, like even like the olive leaf is another good herb we'll talk about later. But olive leaf in association with this, more so than the berry, more so than the oil, because it has oleoeuropene, that substance in it that really has, that boosts up the immune system, anti-inflammatory, antiviral, again, getting back to that lemon balm, right? Because those things work in conjunction. Same thing with this, stimulating that immune system, stimulating those things where you're going from this, your lower self to your middle self to your higher self. So higher self, not necessarily always mean just something outside of yourself, meaning yourself in whole. So in Yoruba, it's called it your ori inu. So ori inu is your inner head or your inner self, that connection that you have with God, that higher self, right? And so when you're looking at these herbs, looking at that from that perspective, how do you use those herbs in a way that is most effective for your body in the space and time and the change of season? And so zanjaberry is one of those kind of things that are really good for supporting the immune system, enhancing resistance to internal and external stress, and that's also another good one, because when it's something that is an adaptogen, it helps you to adapt to your environment, right? So your environment could shift and change dramatically. So for example, say for example, you're coming from a very cold, damp place, but then you come to another place that is very hot and humid. Now it's still damp, right? But the heat in that place is different. So the herbs that you take will be more supporting of, like for example, in the wintertime here. The wintertime is not as harsh as obviously in the East Coast, right? They're getting like 7 feet of snow. That's going to be a whole different level of cold, of dampness, than the kind of dampness that we deal in the Bay Area, specifically, or even in the Valley. You know, it's going to be a different kind of heat, a different kind of dry heat, a different kind of moist heat. So those are things that you're always looking for as well. How do you adapt to your environment? Emotionally, physically, spiritually. Spirit meaning the breath of life. Because that breath of life is what, again, we're talking about that breathing. That internal reverse breathing, when you're drawing things into your system and bringing it back into that rooted breathing, where you're like circulating. And that energy is like building in yourself, where it becomes that vital energy, that vital force in yourself. So that's the same thing in herbs. It's the same thing with, like he may touch on earlier, Vadim touched on earlier, not only in plant-based things, but animal-based things. So it could be a seahorse, or it could be deer antler, or it could be whatever. But those things that are going to balance your system out so that you are living to that point where you're able to adapt to your environment, to in relationships to people. That's also an important part. So that's why I put this specific herb in there. But peppermint, fresh peppermint, I grow my own peppermint. Peppermint, chocolate mint, thyme, olive leaf, and a bunch of other stuff. But peppermint is good in a way because it's anti-inflammatory for the internal and soft organs, but then also for external. For using this as external use, not just in the essential oil part, but making it to where, like, for example, in a bath, right? Breathing it in, externally putting it on your skin for like inflammatory issues, right? Taking these things to where it not only calms your mind, and it's in conjunction also with like a passion flower or something like that as well, but calming your mind, but also keeping your like mind functioning in a certain kind of way. So it's not just I'm sleepy, now I'm tired, I'm good. It's more like, okay, now let me relax myself so that I can hone in on the things that are most important at that particular time. Again, we're talking about adapting to the environment, adapting to self, adapting to the people that we interrelate with. Again, chocolate mint. Chocolate mint Along the same lines as peppermint, but chocolate mint in another way, because again, we're talking about smells. Smells are just as important. I'm an artist, and so as a installation-based artist, so what I do generally is I have things that what you smell, things that you physically put your hands on and touch, things that you walk through and you experience, right? Tactile, and so, and then visual, the colors that hit you. And so the smell of it, that in and of itself, does wonders for the system. And so just being able to smell this herb and bringing in a sense of not only calm, but you're clearing your sinuses. You're clearing your your nervous system to where it's able to function in a way to where you can shift from nervousness, from anxiety, from stress, from all those kinds of things. That's the reason why one of these herbs are, a lot of the herbs, a lot of the peppermint or chocolate mint. Now Polygallo, now this is one that is powerful, powerful beyond powerful for me, because Polygallo, how it functions specifically is it's dealing with the penetration meridian. So it's talking about bringing from those reproductive organs, because it deals with obviously the kidneys, right? That's the essence, clearly. But the reproductive organs, bringing from that kidneys up to the heart, right? That circulation. And so it's also dealing with willpower, courage to get over an addiction, or to hone in and manifest the things that you seek to accomplish. Again, we're talking about those three things again. We're talking about balance. We're talking about focusing internally and externally. Breathing internally, exhaling externally. Those things that are constantly in constant motion, in balance between ourselves. So Polygallo does a lot of those different things. Not only for just those organs that we just talked about, the kidneys and the heart, which again, that creates the willpower. But then you take it another step, it deals with the thyroid. What is the function of the thyroid? And the pineal gland. What's the function of these organs that really are keeping you balanced, at peace? And so then again, when we talk about Shin is that not only for the mind, but for the spirit. You're going beyond yourself, but it is you that you're going to, because you're expanding yourself, you're opening yourself. So when you take an herb like Polygallo, and Polygallo is so potent in its functions that you only need a very small amount of it in any time, because it keeps you I remember the first time I took Polygallo, it just keeps my mind just completely open and rooted, so that even if, and that's why I use this herb right along with Heshawu, because Heshawu and this herb specifically have that balance between the two. Right along with Staphylara, right? That herb in itself does for the bones, for memory. Rosemary for memory, right? But what are those things also good for? What is rosemary also used for? It's also used for digestion, antimicrobial, antiviral. And so I always go back to, because my herbs I use again Chinese herbs. I use herbs that I grow here in the States, and then the other primary herbs I use are from Africa, from West Africa specifically, from Nigeria and from Ghana. And my Luo there, when he used the herb, it wasn't just for one function. One herb could be for mental clarity, or for memory, right? The memory herb that you use so that you can remember verses, because within Ifa, you're constantly rehearsing or going in yourself and memorizing these verses, right? So not only for memory, this same herb can be used in a certain function for antibacterial, or it can be used for clearing or pushing things away. And so that's another reason why these herbs are so important, because any environment that you're in, you have these same basic herbs, and that's the main point. It's one place is not over another place, but that herb that you take in your body is specifically for that space in that environment that you live in, right? So you may take these herbs from other places. You may even grow these herbs, like magnolia may be grown somewhere else, eucalyptus may be grown somewhere else. But you take that herb and put it in this environment, then it has a whole different other function. Even though it may have the same physical things that you understand that it connects to and deals within the body. It also has a different function because it's in this environment in California, in Oakland, California. You know, because it has different soil. So because the soil is just as important as the herb. You don't have good soil, then the herb itself is meaningless, right? If it's not grounded correctly, if it's not rooted in a certain kind of way, if it's not getting the nutrients that it needs from the soil, then everything else is irrelevant. And that's really where in any of these herbs, but when you talk about willpower, I'll get back to that because I got to move on that. But when you talk about willpower,
Okay, about 15 more minutes.
oh,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you sell this here?
No.
Well, it's in the willpower.
Oh, it is
formula,
willpower, yeah.
but we're just out of it right now.
Yeah.
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 We should be getting some in later this week. Yeah.
Do you recommend that or just to use the herb?
I use the willpower formula. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's called willpower by Dragon Herbs. Yeah. Glycol is the first ingredient. We should have some in end of the week. Yeah.
What else is in it?
Willpower,
Capsules.
Stratus is in there, and I think Isha was in there. And so that's also, but in my tonics as well, I do the same thing. I put that herb in there because it has that function to push it out and to open your mind in a certain kind of way.
Where can you get that herb?
I get it from a different source. I get it from
Okay.
yeah.
All right. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. Same thing with the Gadajupon. But see, olive leaf. Olive leaf, that's my favorite herb. I have a lot of favorite herbs. I keep saying that over and over. But I love herbs. But olive leaf is so potent because not only is it an immune builder, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, antibiotic, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, antiviral, but it's also really good for just energy in itself, right? That leaf, when you boil it or when you break it down into powder, right, it helps you to, it gives your body a vibrancy in a certain kind of way because more than the oil. Yeah, question.
Can you get that? Is it just in that form, like does it come in capsule form?
Oh yeah, we have capsule form here, definitely. We have
That's
olive leaf.
what when you said anti-inflammatory, it hit a nerve.
Yep.
So don't forget it. Hold it on this.
Okay.
Yeah, olive leaf.
Yep. And then
Olive leaf.
the different anti-inflammatories. Think about that, like turmeric,
Because
like
that's what I had to have
eucombia.
when I was in hospital.
Yep.
For anti-inflammatory.
Yeah. Exactly. And so that's what same thing with eucombia. Eucombia plays the same function. So if I take this herb, I'm gonna use eucombia with it, no doubt, because it has that same function. Because it does that anti-inflammatory, boosts up your immune system, keeps your body really balanced in a certain kind of way. It's going to be anti-inflammatory for high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and things like that.
This is something you can use continuously. You don't
Every
have to
day.
use it short term.
No,
Okay.
and that's what?
And something else. Sometimes these different capsules that the doctors give us, they blur your vision. They do that, but they blur your vision and give you other side effects.
Right.
That's not cool.
Exactly. That's a good point.
That's not cool. I know what I'm talking about.
That's a good point because those side effects from those herbs, and that's a good jumping off point from this now too. Is when you're talking about things that are tonic herbs or super tonic herbs, are things that you can take daily. Like for example, golden seal, you only can take for a short amount of time. Why? Because it's a very strong herb that is like it purges your body really quickly, right? Especially with your liver. So if you take it too long, then it reverses that same thing that you're trying to do. And so same thing with blue chlorium. You don't take that for long stretches of time, you know. And so a lot of these herbs, like olive leaf, you take that consistently. And again, there is no one single herb that you take over any other herb. It's in combination because all these things play. But there's sometimes it may. I take olive leaf. I've been taking olive leaf since I was like really 10 years old. My grandmother used to, she was an herbalist, so she grew all her herbs. She's originally from Louisiana, but she grew all of her herbs when she was out here too. She took collard green, she took cat claw, she would get cat's claw, get all these other things that were, for infections, that were for, anti-inflammatory. All these things that your body physically goes through consistently, right? And I know I'm talking a lot, but in that way, when you're talking about herbs, when you're talking about optimal living, you're talking about giving things or putting things in your system that help you to sustain yourself. And that's what one of these, that this herb specifically does. It's good for sustaining yourself.
Do did you also say to use olive leaf with Cassandra berry?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I just want to make sure I heard that right.
Yeah, you can definitely put that with Cassandra berries. You put that with Peshawu. That's what's in here. I put it jujubes. There's like 32 different herbs in there. Yeah. Go through. Ah, stuff a lot. Yeah. Now this is.
Did I get the right picture? Is that the right picture?
Yeah, actually it's it. Yeah. For the bones, muscle, tendons, exactly. Stamina, but memory as well. Yep. The memory. The memory. And you think about why is something that's good for the bones good for memory, right? Your bones have memory. You know, people say, oh, you know, your muscle memory. So when you're working out or you're doing something, so you start to go through this motion and start to do it a certain kind of way. That's the same thing. You know, your bones retain things. So, for example, psychologically, so we've been talking about herbs in a very rooted way, but psychologically, our minds and our bodies and our things that we encompass also have this memory. So the bones bring forth memory. So when you're doing a good massage or somebody's opening you up energetically or physically, those memories start to pop out from other areas that were been hidden or suppressed in your system, in your body. And that's where you go into another way rather, where you're looking at things not as this is a pill, and I can take this pill and it eradicates everything. No, now you have to deal with things. Why am I eating in a certain kind of way? Why is this food important to me? Why am I attached to this food? Is it hereditary that I feel like this, or is it a bad habit that's been passed down to me in a certain kind of way?
How good is okra for?
Oh, memory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now
That's what they do in
salad,
Nigeria.
you know how some people they cook okra too long,
Yep.
and they
Slimy.
cook food.
Mm.
Now if you cook blanch it, boil the water,
Mm.
and then bring it up on and cut the fire, put the okra in, and cover the pot for about a few minutes and take it off and cut it about 1 inch long and put it in salad with other vegetables and beans, and it's good for you.
That's right.
It makes you feel different when you get to read it.
And it's
I
interesting.
haven't been anywhere I could fix it in a long time. And sometimes circumstances keep you from being able to do certain things that's good for yourself. But
And then that also that's the other side of okra. Okra in Nigeria, specifically for the Yoruba people, they use okra, dried okra on the stem. They use that, grind it up into a memory herb itself because it's good for memory in that way.
You sell this one here?
It's not that I know of. Not that I know of.
I have a question about this. Scheffelaria, most people use as a house plant. What
I
part of the
know.
plant do you
Isn't
use?
that a house plant? I was looking at the leaves.
What-
I mean,
Yeah.
that's a common plant,
That
right?
is a common plant, yeah.
And you can eat that?
Well, the roots.
It's just- oh, the roots. Oh,
the
okay.
well, actually, okay. So the herb, the herb that I'm talking about is the bark. So it's a physical
Okay.
tree. So the bark, the roots, and I think the leaves are used. So that's specifically what that's used for.
Of that botanical name at the bottom,
It's similar to that one, yeah.
Okay. So
But
the
it's the
household
bark.
one
It's
you can.
specifically the bark that I'm talking about. That's where I
Okay.
get it from. The bark, which you.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now euphomia. Now euphomia is now there's different types of euphomia, right? You say, well, what do you mean different types of euphomia? So it's the bark of the rubber tree, of this kind of rubber tree. But there's different. The older the tree is, the more medicinal it becomes. So if you have one that's 4 or 5 years old, you'll get medicinal qualities from it. But if you have one that's 10, 15 years old or older, that tree, and how they usually they extract it is they take one patch from it, and they on one side of the tree, not the whole tree, so they don't kill the tree, but they take it off the sides of it, pull it off, and then let it grow again, and then go back and pull it out in certain seasons, right? And so it's a very potent herb because again, it not only is good for your bones, muscles, and tendons because it produces natural collagen, right? It's also really good, strengthens, tonifies the skeletal structure. But insomnia, it works good for like sleep apneas. Because again, it calms your mind down. It's double acting. At one end, it helps you to sleep a very good deep sleep, right? Especially if you use valerian root, like about a teaspoon of valerian root or passion flower. It gives you like that deep REM sleep. But the other side of that, it also is like for martial artists. This one has shown a lot of martial artists use these herbs because it gives you like that vigor to rebuild the body quicker, right? And so again, the muscles. If you're working your muscles in a certain kind of way, you're overstressing the muscles, and then Eucombia is also really good for like again your bones, muscles, and tendons because it's strengthening your body. You feel it's a good anti-inflammatory. Think about what that's good for.
Well, five minutes, yeah.
Okay. And so that's again high blood pressure, high cholesterol. So it aphrodisiac. Because what it's used for? What did we talk about earlier? That's to deal with the root of the sexual organs. Is kidneys. And so this is dealing with the liver and the kidneys. Again, hitting that same principle. And so again, when you're looking at tonic herbs, you're talking about things that are balancing each other out. Because as you balance each other things out in your system, then things become, you start living that optimal life. And that's where any tonic, good tonic, whether it be 3 or 4 herbs, or whether it be 150 herbs, or 32 herbs, or 8 herbs. Any of those combinations, but it doesn't really matter because it's the combination of the herbs that is going to give you that vibrancy that you're looking for. And that's really what you're looking for. Any herb in putting together. How do they function? I know I've got a few minutes left. Jujube. Quickly, jujube again, is dealing with spleen, right? And it's moistens. So when you have like you use a blowchlorine, right? You use jujube or goji berries because it moistens. Whereas as the chlorium is like it dries you out. So your influenza or flus or whatever that's coming up. And so this is a good one to do it that way. But again, going back to specific options, again, nourishes the blood. Why does it nourish the blood? Because it's taking the nutrients out of the foods and putting them inside the bloodstream, right? It has red blood cells, white blood cells stored in the physical spleen. And what's right on top of it? What makes that impression on it? The liver, right? And so again, all these things are constantly balancing each other out. And so I want to say that specifically with that.
This is supposed to be really good for your skin too, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So you help people with anemic?
Yeah, because it helps with the blood. Yeah, helps with the blood. And anything that's building up, like beets, building up the blood.
I love that.
You know, those kinds of foods. Red foods, purple foods. Those things are good for building the blood. You know, nourishing. Reishi mushroom, we talked about that earlier. Now reishi is, like you're saying, the black reishi is really hard. It's really expensive. It's super expensive. Red reishi is the one I usually use, and it's very not only calming, it's good for the immune system, but when you talk about calming your mind when you're overstressed or over anxiety, also anti-tumor and dealing with like anti-cancer properties, antiviral. And so again, I use this herb in a tonic because it really, when I even doing things that if somebody's having a nervous disorder or their minds are overactive or they're seeking to like have like peace or calm in their life, I'll use this one as well. With like a good combination is reishi mushroom, jujube, and goji berries. And you brew that up for an hour. That's good, nourishing for the body, the nervous system, things like that. But it's a very good herb in all kind of ways. Meyer lemon, amazing. Because again, respiratory, digestion, immune system, getting that vitamin C, helping to support the system. Now all these herbs that I'm talking about, this is for the change of season. So that's mainly what we're talking about. We're talking about herbs that are going to help you to shift in a season so that you won't get as sick, or that your body won't be drained or like depleted in any kind of way. And that's really what we're talking about when we're talking about using tonics. Gotu kola. Gotu kola is is a good herb in combination with ginkgo biloba, which is another good one. Think about what ginkgo does. The tree, it absorbs all the toxins in the area, but it doesn't necessarily absorb it in the leaves, right? It pushes out all this beautiful oxygen to the tree. So gotu-kola, in that same vein, what it does, it's a small herb, it's not a tree, but what it does is that the circulation, bringing oxygen to the extremities of the body, bringing, it's a natural antihistamine. Ginkgo biloba the same way. Antioxidant, improves mental function. Why? Because when you have oxygen to your brain, you're able to think clearly. When things are circulating correctly in your system, you're able to think clearer, right? Sedative, antidepressant. Why? Because when your mind is able to calm, focus in, hone in on one thing that is seeking to accomplish, then that's, you'll be a lot more relaxed, a lot more flowing in the way that you live your life. Now we just talked about gotu-kola, promotes good circulation, bring oxygen to the extremities of the body, and natural antihistamine for allergies, right? So that's could even use in the springtime, right? And so that, I'm rushing through it just because I know I only have like 2 seconds to go. Akere jukon is a very powerful adaptogen herb, but then also it's good for women for their if they're over 40 and seeking to have a child, right? Because it promotes a healthy womb, promotes it supports the kidneys, the liver, the heart, gallbladder. It's this very potent herb that helps you with not only fertility, has high vitamin C content. Also, now think about this: premature ejaculation. Anything that says that, you already know is dealing with the prostate immediately. So guess what? I can use that with. I can use that with heshawu, with saw palmetto, with any of those kind of herbs. Again, look, I'm always thinking about what are the properties, how does this function, and so it also is a very good for it's an antiviral, good antiviral, antimicrobial, antioxidants. The list goes on and on for it, and they've used it for it's in different parts. You can find it in Mali, you can find it in Ghana, you can find it in Nigeria, and mainly in West Africa. But you can find this specific tree. It's called Akere jukon, means a small mighty tree, right? Because it's an aphrodisiac. But it's the fruit, it's the leaves, it's the anti-inflammatory leaves, it's the root, the leaves, the bark, yeah. And so for men and women. So that's a lot of times when I do tonic herbs too, it's for balance, for men and women, because it has to have that balance in everything that you do. It's not just one side or the other, it's you're balancing within yourself.
So where's that herb? Do you have it here?
I get that from Nigeria. I get that from Nigeria. Saw palmetto, like we were just talking about, saw palmetto is not only, it's predominantly looked at as a male herb because they use it for the prostate. But saw palmetto is not only for men, it's also for women, because again, it promotes milk production, because it works with the mammary glands, right? It promotes, if you're dealing with female issues as far as like urinary tract infections, right? It deals with like, it's been used for that. With your cervix, your ova, and just balancing out your hormones in your system in general. And so, usually, when people are looking for that, okay, I want this thing that's going to immediately give this drive to me, right? Palmetto is one of the herbs that will do that, in conjunction with other herbs. By itself, it'll do it, but in conjunction with other herbs, it enhances its abilities. That's it.
Yes, we made it. We made it. We made it.
Questions? Answers?
I had a question. Okay, so pretty much then you, for your specific self, take what you know that you have used and you like, and then you put it all in a pot and you make your own tonic?
Depending on what's going on. For me, or when I'm dealing with somebody else. For example, in a consultation. Within a consultation with somebody, it's important to not only look at, okay, these are the symptoms that I have, But then,
Make it.
what is the person and where are they living? What environment are they living in? You know, what kind of herbs will help them in that function? Because it's more than just the herb. That's why I always want to go back to that. It's more than just the physical symptoms that you're having. It's also the mental state that you're in and how you function in that mental state. Where are you? Who do you live around? Who supports you? Who does not support you? All those things are important as well. So then that's how I choose the herbs as well when I'm dealing with a client. What's going on specifically with this person? Now these herbs may work beautifully with this person, but what specific thing is for this person at that specific time? And that's how I really use. There's a general tonic, and then there's a tonics that you build on for whatever reason, diabetes, or weight loss, or whatever it may be. Whatever ailment, whatever thing that you may connect to. And that's why I choose the herbs. Based off of the person and the personality.
I see. Okay.
Who's ready?
Yep, they're ready.
So I got, mine is a mixture of goji berries, schizandra berries, longan fruit, and romania. So this is definitely a combination of Shen and Jing, and Shen and Jing, and it's a kind of more of a yin beverage. It's also called a compote, which is in Russian means like a fruit soup. And yeah, whatever like solid things fall in there, just eat them.
So what would that be good for?
This is for blood building, for the skin, definitely for the liver and kidney. Yeah, and Romania is called the kidney's own food. Like Romania is really right on for the kidney, and also supports the prostate as well.
Would you like me to help pass those out?
Sure. You ready for a cup?
Yeah, I was ready. And the tonic that I made up as well, it's the same, the one I was talking about. All the herbs that I talked about here is in this tonic. Plus maybe one or two more with extra like peppermint.
So when's part 2 gonna happen?
I'm doing a conference December 27th in Concord. Anybody wants to know about it? Give me your email address. It's gonna be like 6 presenters. It's gonna be from 12 to 6 in Concord at an alternative health clinic called Forsana.
Stronger.
It's strong?
It's like chewed on some strong.
Oh, okay.
Probably should.
It won't hurt you.
No sweetener now.
What's making it sweet like that?
Goji berries?
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is yours
Oh, so that,
for?
well, this one is change of
What is it
season.
hitting?
It's change of season.
This
Change
season?
into the winter time.
Oh, okay.
Change of season time.
Immune system, all that.
So it's basically the liver, the kidneys, the gallbladder, the pineal gland, the thyroid, the heart, the spleen, yeah, those organs specifically. Yeah.
Give me a shot of yours. Thank you, sir.
Anybody else want some?
Probably everybody wants to buy it.
Sure.
So they're both two different.
They're two different. Yeah. He has one going with 18 herbs. I have four in this one.
So you had 30 something.
No, this one's 18.
Oh,
Yeah.
18.
Actually, 2 forms.
Usually I do 30.
Okay.
Is it okay to have both?
I mean, there's enough for seconds too.
Somebody says it's okay to have both.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
Plenty. Oh, is this yours?
Somebody wants seconds? There's enough for seconds.
Yeah.
Is it all right to have to taste both together?
Yeah. Sure, yeah.
No, both of them are supportive.
Floating out of here on a higher state of consciousness, you know?
And again, also consultations as well. That's something that that I do outside of the food mill and the food mill. Specifically talking about those kind of issues, psychological, physical, emotional, and then getting to the physical herbs, times a day, eating habits, relationships to eating habits, those kinds of things.
And is this potion what one should have versus drinking a half a cup? Is this the right portion?
No, I would say two of those cups would be a serving. It'll keep you awake. I'll leave goji berries too. Once you get to the bottom.
And then I did see you.
Well, I mean, it's dual directional. It's going to help you do whatever you want to do. So,
And what's good for
well, magnesium is more targeted for grams. Yeah. It's not multi-grams. How is it?
But I use it.
Now, when I used to go to Tanzania, I get those kind of PJs and herbs out
Yeah.
of case. You can say everything for
Well, roots and mushrooms that are woody, those are, and some barks, that can cook for a long time. You're talking about berries and flowers and leaves, that's more of a steep. You know, that's kind of more of a, that's not a boil, it's more of a steep.
when you get accustomed to it.
Right.
So can you overdo that?
I suppose so.
You cooking like you cooking the harder herbs.
If you get it too hot.
You mix them both together like I do. And then you have to cook the harder ones longer.
You might evaporate some components, you know, if you, what you're getting out of this, yeah, basically what you're getting out of this is the polysaccharides. They're long chain sugars that are in the goji berries that are basically very immunological. You're getting a lot of immune system supporting properties when you cook the goji berries that are sometimes you can't get them when you're eating them. Right, so when you eat goji berries, you're going to get some properties that you won't get when you're cooking. When you cook the goji berries, you're going to get some properties that you don't get when you're eating. Yeah.
So do both?
Do both, yeah. Yeah, you can put these in sauteed meals. You can put them in all kinds of food. Soups, you can put them in soups. So
did you ask my question? Can you overcook goji berries?
You probably can, yeah. You
Cut the good stuff out
You probably can, yeah.
and then evaporate?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing
I
just know the goji berries.
Everything you talked about.
No, those are just 4 things. That's, Schizandra, longan fruit, also known as dragonite fruit, Schizandra berry, and Romania.
Can you eat these?
Yeah, for sure.
Because you know what, I cooked them and then simmer them for 3 hours and I just changed away and I didn't eat
It's good fiber.
And I ended up coming to there's a Wednesday class.
That's really good. That's stuff right down.
That's mainly dealing with raw vegan diet. We talk about everything.
Oh, that's that. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm Billy, a wrestling chef.
So I went off of it at Thanksgiving. I'm not gonna lie. That's the 6 months I did.
So this is Shen and this is Jean.
It was like I felt so good, but so you do that.
Oh yeah, cup. That's right.
I know what you're talking about.
Do you know the what are the classes as well, or on Wednesday?
Which classes? Azalea's classes, or? Yeah, that's Azalea. Yeah, I've
Good.
worked with Azalea.
This was
and,
good.
Thank you.
Oh, I see.
Totally, I know the Green Soul movement that she
Oh
has.
yeah, I'm one of her new members, like new practitioners. Yeah, because she does it. She teaches me course every 6 years. And I just happen to get in for one of these 6 years.
And she actually has me
So we'll be actually opening in upstairs.
do demos for her.
In January, we'll be opening, doing what we do upstairs here.
What's upstairs?
not gonna taste it.
Not the whole.
Down inside of
Yeah.
Specific question.
Just to start, you know.
Are you gonna do that with the
We got food, yeah, we got food reflexology, nutritionist, people that will go to your home and like heal your home.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
So that just things to be
Yeah, well, yeah, that's where you can locate us. It's a small room.
Like I said,
So
Why don't you go ahead and
the most
write your email on here.
massage with the reflexology.
Well, I got to go.
Too many names, I don't know set up for the one. Email that I can
Give me your email address. I'll send you the presentation.
Yesterday, we got
I'll send you the whole thing.
another spot. Speaking of taking pictures of people, you know,
Yeah, no more.
Really good.
do you work every day?
Yeah, this is not bad.
I can try the potato, I remember that.
They have some already cooked up.
that's the
on
easy part of the show.
Yeah.
So that's like my email.
Of course, I have no card. I keep telling her that.
So everyone's
Oh, yeah, every Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I'll make, you know, call it and fill up a day of work.
Yes, how are you?
You know, so it's easy to try.
Yeah, I'm always over here.
Okay, and even if she's not meeting it, we rotate now. We all get a
Everybody
chance to
don't
do
so
class.
really.
And share what we know.
I can look at everybody's eyes and
I
see.
kept looking at those leaves. I'm really familiar. I'm glad you
Oh,
said
yeah,
that.
I love it.
Everything about your
I got grandkids now. I would like to see
I
them.
noticed too, over here,
Oh, well, my friend, who I came to California.
I believe.
That's what I do. I make alternative foods for Thanksgiving. I make a meatloaf. No meat, very neat, but it looks like a meatloaf. And I also make things like mashed potatoes made with cauliflower and some gravy. I have a sweet potato pie. It tastes like a pumpkin pie. I have a coconut pie. I have a chocolate banana pie. So I have
I mean, they look like they just
white green.
But I was right there using,
you know, but he had lost his wife.
stuff over at the church.
Yes, that's what I said. I just left the church. Right.
I'm attributing stuff to you.
That's the last thing our conversation. The last thing he said was like,
We'll need walk to get some recipes or
I also bring cookies here, sometimes after church and sell them here.
I want to keep on living. I guess I need to
Just enjoying the lecture.
So,
I'm like, I love you, blah, blah, blah.
putting them in the refrigerator and taking.
I'm enjoying
I don't know
myself. I
what
will stay here.
For days, and I just have too many.
Is it just a tonic to clear our blood? Does anyone know what we're drinking or what?
It's good for everything.
Just emails?
Yeah, oh, here's an area stragglers, thank you. Full tea, and some
Hi, how's it going?
That's
If
a
anybody
zero.
wants to pull for the conference, December 27th.
That's a zero, that's
I tell people
Because they're not, I can't, that's why I said
Zero, okay.
can't and
You were
everything.
gonna take our email?
Yeah.
And when people come out of the church on 41st and
So more
Hilltop, they
is
buy
better,
food because
or it doesn't matter?
eat everything.
Thanks.
Hello again.
Trust me, yeah.
Wow, you're good.
Very good. Oh,
There's another solution.
Who said that?
Yeah, I always say it's
You want to, did you give your email yet?
Yeah, that's good. The other one.
Okay, Jill, okay, Jill, that's
Oh,
okay.
y'all just can't, oh, this was, you could do that.
Oh, nice, okay.
It was, they mainly, professionals in Chinese.
Like
Are you ready, Johnny?
Yeah, I'm
Okay, I'm really interested in that tonic part. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna Patricia dot on a gate,
So you're into like,
yeah, just basically, just kind of getting feedback on that, some people buy Vitamin C.
No, you said she is.
Too much vitamin C.
Oh, I said,
We just have to be vessels for it. Yeah, it's not really about. It's already gonna happen anyway. Like it's gonna happen. Just,
I was like,
just have to let it. Yeah.
I'm fully there. I'm in there too. So I do like Yoni, Steve, things like that. So I went and opened a wellness center too, but one client at a time where I can do acupuncture, Reiki, herbs, tarot cards, everything. One person at a time. So I get it. It's gonna happen. I'm not even worried.
But I mean, I
You said
did
it. It's meant.
I worked
And when you know it's meant, you feel it. And you don't worry about it.
For someone new.
Rocky, huh?
My name is Rocky.
Okay, wonderful. Name.
So are you having another one of these?
Well, I'm doing a conference, a Saturday conference in Concord, December 27th. Yeah, that's from 12 to 6. So it's going to be like multiple speakers on different really cool stuff happening there.
Okay.
So, and then we'll probably do one, here again, probably January. So it's kind of switching off.
Okay. And what's your name?
My name is Nadeem. I'll give you my card. Yeah, that's really essential. Huh? 20 plus tax. You got it. Okay, great.
I'll take your card.
Yeah.
Hey, John.
Quesamo, is the remote over there?
Yeah.
People like him just study
So like, I'm like, because I don't know, my daughter knows.
Yeah, I'm gonna email you the. Everybody who's emailing guys is gonna get a copy of the presentation too. Go ahead and write it.
You want to get your email right there. I would have done it for you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Hey.
Alright, so
Hey, how are you?
go ahead and write it. I guess there's full room here.
And the father bleeding.
All right.
I started following him.
I was just telling my friend about you. Just delicious.
I do some of the herbs
Yeah.
but I've never had it in conjunction with oil juice.
Right.
So this and it tastes really good. So sometimes I have those very
Been there, I know exactly, what it's starting out like and how you
so some of the
feel
others I've had as well, but I usually find them.
and this is just variety.
I feel like I've been eating food.
And
Wow.
there's a
Yes,
ton of
what is my
raw
sister
food there.
saying? Wow, thank you. This is delicious.
Not everyone is going to go through it or even understand. So yeah, I was doing it. I started out and then I went to a conference on modern family. And money in there. And that's why we just bought a book. And I had a friend that were trying to support each other. And Rich because we have a teacher class. All right, so I said,
Bitter.
And then we did that. That's my job.
There's so much.
Yeah, it's Christmas, but we'll be in touch. I'm gonna try to do something here once every 2 months, and then we'll do the same conference about the same amount of time. Whatever give you want to do stuff. It's a pretty good article
And
right
it just
here.
makes you want to really do it. And I got some I actually got some herbs. My teacher gave us this concoction in
ODGOLDEN.
I would forget
What do you need?
That's a longan fruit. Longan. it's really high in iron. Yeah. Yeah, you need it, yeah. Yeah, it's good for the blood.
But I'm still covering, right?
Yes, they want my needs when I call them. They say,
Like that.
come once a month. That's what you need to get your stuff.
Very simple.
Because you're not living like that.
I always felt like a